going to go over deGrom here in a moment because he has, one of these sliders that jumps out among most. This is the point of the programming that's probably best ingested via YouTube, and we've got some great feedback on the plate appearances, like over the course of it at bat, how guys are going about striking dudes out. We also got some good feedback on four-seamers as well. So we're going to jump into sliders now, and we're going to kind of do the same thing. I've got Kershaw, deGrom, Ohtani, and Dylan Cease to end this. And we're going to start with your guy, Kershaw. I guess first and foremost, what makes Clayton Kershaw's slider so special?
I think first of all, it's the spin, right? So it's hard to, show you without having played catch with him or hitting against him, right? But the spin is so similar to his fastball, and then I think secondarily it's the command, right? If you look at all of these, they're always going to be on his glove side unless he doesn't want them to be. He really, really locates his heater on this inner third, and especially inner third down. And he's just pretty relentless with it, right? He kind of, if you can't hit it, then that's all you're going to get, and you're not going to hit it. And it's very late. It's also, it's got this certain shape that I think his arm slot will tell your eyes that the ball's not going to be able to do what it does.
So people talk about late movement. And I always think that's so fascinating because you can see it and you can see the effectiveness of it. But how is that something that you can control as a pitcher? Is it something, or is it just kind of a natural effect that you have on the baseball that you can't really control? I think it's so wild. How do you make the ball break later?
Yeah, I mean, everyone thinks velocity is this huge proponent, and it is, right? Velocity is important.
Of course.
But the efficiency of the throw and kind of the force that he creates, right? Clayton's a big man, and he used to throw 96, 97, and now it's 93. But he still is creating a lot of force. And I don't really know how to explain it, but he can force the ball further towards the zone before it has to start moving. And he also spins it well. The numbers won't say that, but the spin.
It's like the spin efficiency.
Yeah, and just it's like the way his hand works is the way it's supposed to happen. I don't know how else to say that. It's like he does it cleaner than most people.
Yeah, we're going to roll it from this start on Saturday. This is Isaac Paredes, who, again, you're mentioning it's always glove side, and that heater plays well, low and into righty bats.
Yeah.
We've also got one against Wander Franco here, and kind of
that's more the prototype one there.
Got you. So we're going to the Franco one again, and this is.
So this one, the first one was the first one for us. What was the count on the first one?
First one was 1-0.
So he's trying to throw a strike.
Yeah.
Then the second one is 2-2, and he's trying to throw a ball. And what are they? Strike ball, right? That doesn't not happen very often, right? He knows where it's going. He's very comfortable with the shape of it most of the time. He's talked publicly on SNLA about where he wants it velocity-wise and why it's super important. And I think the big thing for him is when it's 85, 86, it's just not quite as late. He can make it bigger. But how late it is the biggest thing for him. And, he just has different feel than most people.
So is the goal on that 1-0, because it starts kind of middle-ish and then dives to the bottom of the zone, but like you said, it's a strike, and that's the goal there. Is the goal also to make that look like a fastball as long as possible?
That's not the goal. That's not the goal. That is what happens, right? This ball spins exactly like his fastball and looks like it about 55 feet.
So when does it stop looking like his heater? Right here, I guess?
Yeah, the moment you see that little turn.
And that's the term tunneling, basically, right? That's where
And he does it as good as anyone in the major leagues.
Got you. All right, so jumping to deGrom here. I mean, this guy has one of the higher speed sliders that we've got in baseball, right? Now, I've got one that works glove side against Gleyber Torres and a righty-righty, and then he's seeing a lefty, and he's going backdoor. You want to start with the righty-righty?
Yeah, I mean, both of them are good examples, right? Because the ability to go both sides of it is a huge example of how good he is, right? To make the ball go right to left, your hand has to be in such a position, right? It has to be on the outside of it. And to do that way over here on your arm side is difficult. That's why these backdoor, like when somebody backdoors somebody, like, oh my God, that was really cool. It's hard to do.
Yeah. That was going to be my question is how hard is that? Because that seems like the hardest pitch to hit.
Yeah. It's hard to hit and it's hard to throw. And he can do it with some relative ease. And, you know, it's the same thing with Kersh. He commands it really, really, really well. And if you look at this one's like up and away. So you're trying to throw a pitch that goes down and to the left, and he's throwing it up and to the right. And still making it move. Like visually, you can see it move. I think the other misconception here is when a lot of people watch these games on TV, like these pitches move more than they look like.
Yeah.
To your eyes.
Especially with that Arlington angle.
Yeah.
That you're going to get there.
That ball's moving like 8, 10, 12 inches. And it looks like it's just baby cutting in there. It's not. And it's up and it's away, and he cuts it right over there. It's pretty wild. But
that's the thing that, real quick, that's the thing that kind of gets me about certain camera feeds, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, you're talking about, how it looks like it's a baby cut. It's offset a little bit. We see a lot of them offset to the left field side of second base.
Yeah.
But if you get the opportunity, like anybody listening, whether it's a minor league game or a big league game, to sit directly behind home plate, you see these things moving so much more horizontally than what it looks like.
Yeah. But same thing as Kersh, where it's command driven. It's a really, really clean 4-seam fastball that he really commands to a certain area. And then he throws the slider off of it all the time. And both those guys have really, really good third offerings, right? I think with deGrom, it's more of his changeup. And with Kersh, it's more of the curveball.
Right.
But both of them are predominantly fastball slider because they command them both so well. And one of the first things Clayton actually ever told me about like having a good fastball, curveball, slider, whatever, is that it's not about how good it can be, it's how good it is all the time. Like 80% of your throws, your best ones and your worst ones, take those out. How good are the 80%? And both these guys are kind of elite in that they really don't throw many bad ones, and even their average ones are really, really good, and they're really consistent.
Yeah. Totally different. Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, outside of the obvious, when it comes to the slider, what's the hardest part about being so consistent with it? Is it the release point? Is it just kind of the feel to spin it? Like, what is that big separator between the guys that can just be so consistent with it in that 80% range versus the guys that show flashes? We always hear prospects flashes plus, but it's not consistently plus. What's the biggest? Is it repeating your delivery? Is that really what it boils down to?
I think the biggest thing is the difference between throwing a strike slider and a ball slider. Right? If I throw a slider for a ball, if I pull it down left and it's this big, like it can be really good looking, right? Mm-hmm. But that's what I was talking about with deGrom, the ability to throw it high and to the right and have it actually have shape. Yeah. That's the consistency element, right? It's getting your hand to the front of the ball anywhere in the zone and consistently, and not when you pull it down and to the left, your hand is way over it to go over there. Yeah, a lot of people can throw plus sliders straight left. Not many people can throw them on their arm side. Yeah. So I think that's the biggest thing. But so this is a different thing as well, because I really struggle with throwing the Kershaw or deGrom kind of really hard late slider. I'm better at spinning the slider, making it more of a sideways curveball, which is kind of the new wave, and everyone says sweeper and whatever. I think it's really similar to the old school like slurve.
Yeah.
But that's what Ohtani's doing. He can really, really spin the ball. So it's a complete the fact that we call all these sliders like they're different pitches, right? But
and how much harder is it to be consistent with it when it breaks that much, though? That's the thing with the sweepers that's interesting to me. Is like when you have the shorter sliders,
it's a lot easier.
Really?
Because I have a tough time getting that perfect hard throw spin, but I can spin around it pretty regularly, right?
Gotcha.
So it kind of has to do with your delivery and your arm action and your arm path and all of these different things that you have to figure out which one works for you. But on this Ohtani clip, right, one's a ball, one's a strike. They seemingly come out of the same area, and they seemingly have pretty similar shape. but he's able to maintain the shape of it as a strike and then as a ball. That's what makes these things really good, is because a lot of, we talk about when you're growing up, like, oh, I just want to throw like the get me over anything. In the major leagues, like get me over doesn't work very much.
Right.
Get me overs are homers. So the fact that he can throw a strike slider, and you see Gurriel here kind of take a little buckle to get that ball to move tight enough that high in the zone is difficult.
Yeah.
So on the slider point and the late breaking slider, kind of going back to Kershaw and some of the other guys, because this is just downright nasty with Kershaw, deGrom. How much, and you talked about it a little bit before we recorded, how much of it is the fastball being in the back of the hitter's mind that's allowing the slider to play up? Because I look at a guy like Spencer Strider, his slider, if you in a vacuum, doesn't have all of the characteristics shape-wise that would fit like the most dominant sliders in the game. But opponents hit a $133 against it and whiff a ton because of how good the fastball is. How much of that is part of it as well? Like, are some of the best sliders in the game really just good because of the fastballs?
I think most of them. I think most of you're not going to find a ton of guys. You'll find some relievers. Brad Hand is probably the guy that I think of. First off, this big slider that is really his main thing. But starting pitchers, you're not going to see many guys throw slider a lot, or as their primary pitch, right? I think Sale might be one that you would think of, but he's got a really good fastball. Like, he just does. It's hard to see. It's hard. It's out of a weird angle. Like, starting pitching, you're not going to have – guys aren't going to have great sliders unless they have a pretty good fastball, I don't think.
Yeah, and pretty much every guy we're talking about right now has a great fastball, and this guy is no exception. He's off to a rough start this year, but I think everybody that listens to this show knows how freaking nasty Dylan Cease is. What makes his slider so unique? Because he also throws one of those, big knuckle curveballs.
Yeah, so this is kind of the combo one, right? You can see the shape of it is more the shape of Kershaw or deGrom's, where it's kind of got that downer, but it's spun, right? He's spinning this ball to make it do that instead of like pulling it down there. So I think these are kind of the three classifications of sliders. We've seen like the pull, firm, really, really hard, firm one. We've seen like the big spinning one from Ohtani. And then I think Cease is kind of the in-between, where it's downer and spun. They're just hard to hit. I think Verlander would be the first guy I think of that throws a similar one to this, where it's really spun. But even Verlander's is a little bit more of that hard pulled one.
Yeah. I mean, this is 85.
He threw this pitch so much last year when he was did he win the Cy Young, or he was second in Cy Young?
Runner up, second in Cy Young.
Yeah. I mean, he threw that a ton. We faced him and it was like 50% slider. It was just hard to hit.
So that one, like you said, is kind of like the in-betweener.
Yeah.
What's like and I guess it kind of depends on the rest of your arsenal, but where do you want to be with the slider in terms of like, I guess if you're a high spin fastball guy, a ton of carry, what kind of slider do you think is the best working off of that? Or does it kind of depend on the pitcher?
Yeah, I think in a prototype world, right, it's like the exact opposite of your fastball. So if your fastball is jumpy with some run, you want a little bit of left to it. If it's straight up, you want it straight down, that kind of thing. Like I'm the opposite of that, where I have a pretty straight fastball that's kind of a jumpier one, and I want a straight left slider.
Gotcha.
But all I talk to our pitching coaches all the time about is how can I get a slider to go straight down? That's hard.
Yeah.
Like that's what I want. Now my throw and my hand I haven't been able to figure out a way to do it, and that's something that I'm kind of working on. But you also have to find the one that you can do a lot, and you can do, if you throw 10 of them, 9 of them are good, right? So it's not always about, you look at all these guys in the major leagues, like nobody has the exact same arsenal, nobody has the same throw, the same delivery, and I think a lot of what you're able to do is dictated on all that.
This isn't a 101 course. This is like 401, 304, whatever it is. So this is pitching 401 with Walker Buehler. You're the man. We've got 4 seamers and sliders checked off. New pitch next week, Ian?
Yeah, we're going to go cutter.
Cutter. All right.
I thought we were going to go knuckleball.
There's a difference between cut fastballs and cutters. I want everybody to figure that out.
Okay.
Ooh,
all right.
yeah.
Walker Buehler, you're the man. We'll talk to you next week.
Perfect. See you.